Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're going to do an odds and ends video. As you probably know if you watch my channel a lot, this last weekend I was at the ArnFest event, and while I was down there, got to meet a lot of viewers, got to have a lot of fun, but while I was there, we brought home all kinds of goodies. So today's episode, we're going to have some viewer mail that's come in, wasn't part of ArnFest. Part of it's going to be some gifts that I received from some of my viewers while I was at ArnFest. I also got some items that I picked up on the swap meet, which is always a big fun part of what we do at ArnFest is the swap meet on Saturday morning. So I found a few little things there that I brought home with me, and anyway, just got some interesting stuff you guys might want to see. So without further ado, let's get going. So first items here are a couple of catalogs that were sent in by Mike Wade, and Mike had actually sent me some things a while back from this same collection. He said this is some catalogs that were in his boss's father's collection. His boss's father's name was David Strandenberg, and he said that he worked for the former Bureau of Standards in the metrology department, and also the Naval Research Center in the Washington, D.C. area. So he was doing all kinds of really high-tech measurement type things, really cool stuff that us machinist guys really like. And these are just a couple of the catalogs that were from his collection. First one here is Sheffield Gauges. They made all kinds of gauges that were used for doing special measurement work. He had marked some pages in here. There's all the engineers and draftsmen drawing stuff up, but they just had all kinds of really cool things. This is from probably the 1940s era. I'm just guessing looking at it, and just some really neat things that they were be able to produce to keep quality control up. The next one over here says millionths of an inch for sale by Vinco. So again, gauge measurement stuff, super high tolerances, and just some neat things in here. So I will definitely add these to the library and be glad to have them. It's always nice to be able to go pull out and look at some of this old reference stuff from time to time, and there's some really cool stuff in here. So Mike, thank you very much for sending those along. Next items we got is some electrical components that were sent in by Joe Goring. And Joe, I think if I remember right, he told me that he had switched the machine over from three-phase to single-phase, take the motor off, and had to redo the electronics and the switches and all that kind of stuff. And this is what was on there. He had no use for it, not having three-phase, and wanted to know if I could use it. So we got a motor starter. This is a forward-reverse switch, and then a three-phase plug. And yes, absolutely. You know, very often when I get a new machine in the shop, I have to rewire it. The electrical stuff on it is often messed up, and it's nice to have this kind of stuff in the inventory to just go pull off the shelf and be able to reuse. So absolutely we can use this. In fact, I used one of these drum switches just the other week on a machine, and I don't have another one laying around. I do now, so real nice one there. And this plug, this happens to be the plug that I use in my shop for most of my three-phase equipment. So all this will definitely be usable. I'm going to put it over on my shelf and have it when we need it. And Joe, thanks for sending it along. Up next comes from Joel Havens, and Joel is a longtime friend of mine. He actually is one of the key people on the VintageMachinery.org website that helped to does just a lot of stuff in the background, helping keeping that site up to date, and I greatly appreciate his efforts. But he contacted me a couple of weeks ago, told me he had picked up some of these little enclosures for electrical components, and wanted to know if I could use them. And when I saw them, I knew exactly what they were, because I happen to have a tub full of switches like this. This is one that he sent me. Different colors, different configurations that came out of a bunch of electrical cabinets that I salvaged parts out of a while back. And you know, I don't have much of this kind of stuff right here. This is what you could put like a start-stop station on a piece of machinery. And I got the switches to go in them. I didn't have the enclosures to put them in. So this is really good. This one has a, you know, a start-stop. It's kind of an interesting little toggle switch there. I've never seen one like that, but kind of neat. But yeah, absolutely we can use these, and these will probably end up on machines at some point in time for remote start-stop stations. And Joel, thank you very much for thinking of me and sending them along. I'll put them in the inventory. We'll have them when we need them. Right before I left to go to ArnFest, this showed up in the mail. It got shipped down to me, a brand spanking new Hot Shot 360 heat treat oven. And you guys, again, if you watch my channel for a while, you know that I had one of these in the shop. It was one of the original ones that was developed by Stan Zinkowski over at Bardsley Industrial. Stan's the guy that puts on the Bardsley Summer Bash every year. He designed a heat treat oven and started selling them. And basically what happened over time is that the demand for these things was more than he could keep up with. So he made a deal with American Rotary, the guys that make the rotary phase converters, and they started actually making these in their shop. So he kind of sold them the rights to it. Stan still sells them. He's a dealer, retailer for these. But when American Rotary got it, they started a new company that they call American Kiln and Oven, I think is what I remember right. But they did some redesign on a few things. Improvements, probably a better way of putting it. And while it's still basically the same oven that Stan designed, they did do some improvements in here. So number one, it's got a much nicer latch on the side that's a little bit easier to deal with. It's got actually clamps up on there. It's got some little pins to align it to get it lined up just right. Another improvement that they did was they basically got the oven like Stan had, but they put it inside of another shell, so there's an air gap all the way around this thing. There's a fan in the back, and this outside shell stays remarkably cool, considering that you can get this oven up to over 2,000 degrees. But between the insulation here and the air gap, you can just about put your hand on this thing while it's running, and it's completely safe. Stan's was actually not bad, but this is a great improvement over that. Another thing that I really like is it uses the same controller that Stan had in his. And the neat thing about this controller is you could actually pull it out, and there was a USB port on it, and you could take it to your computer, plug it up, and program it using your computer with a little app that they got, rather than having to go through all the menus and the buttons on here. American Rotary, or American Kiln, I guess, actually put a USB port in the side over here, so you can take your laptop to this thing, plug it right in, and leave all this stuff together. You don't have to pull that out and risk damaging your controller. So another nice little feature there. So anyway, we got a brand new oven, and I do some heat treating. I don't do a whole lot of it, but I've used my old Hot Shot probably 5 or 6 times over the last year or two, and I'm sure that we'll be using this coming up. I've actually got some heat treating that I need to do at some point in time, and we'll give it a good workout whenever we do that. If you're interested in one of these ovens, Stan Zinkowski at Bardsley Industrial is still a retailer for these. You can check them out at hotshotovens.com. They have a website. You can get all the information, find out how to order them. I think it has a link to Stan, and there may even be some other retailers out there who are selling them. So next item's not really viewer gifts or mail. This is actually something that I sent off, but I had some measurement tools here that were needed, a little bit of TLC, and I sent them to my friend Mark Rotowski over at MR Tool Repair. Mark has done quite a few repairs and fixing up measuring equipment for me in the past, and this is some stuff that's been kind of stacking up. He lives up in the area where ArnFest is at, and he usually comes out to the swap meet. So knowing that, I sent a box up to him a couple of weeks ahead of time, and he had this stuff ready for me. He actually met me at ArnFest where I could bring it home and save a little bit of return shipping on there. But he worked on all this stuff, really fixed it up, had a pair of Starrett dial calipers. This is a pair I've been using for a long time, and the crystal on it was kind of messed up. It just needed to be cleaned and serviced and everything really good. All these indicators here, he went in again, cleaned, serviced them, and put new crystals on all of them, and got all these working really good. I'd sent him this bore micrometer. Unfortunately, it was not repairable. Not everything can be fixed. So when he took it apart, he said the inside of it was just full of rust, and the spindle in there was really pitted real bad. He said he probably could have got it working, but he wasn't confident that it would be able to give the precision that I would be wanting out of it. So I opted to just not do anything with that, and I'll be looking for a new one of these. This is an eBay find, and usually when I buy stuff off of eBay, I have pretty good luck. This one here, yeah, unfortunately, it was beyond repair. Yeah, I'll just have to chunk that one and find a new one, I guess. Oh well. But anyway, if you're interested in sending some stuff off to Mark, I've got his contact information on his card. His email address is mrtool2010@hotmail.com. I would send him an email before you send him anything. Let him know what you're sending to him. He'll give you instructions, and he can usually give you a rough estimate on what something's going to cost to fix up. Of course, you never know until you get in there and find out exactly what's going on. But he can usually give you a ballpark idea of what it might cost to fix some of this stuff. And he does a real good job, and in my opinion, he does it very economically. So I use him quite frequently. I've got another stack of stuff over there I've already put together, and at some time in the near future I'll be sending him some more stuff. So now I'm going to cover some items that we picked up at ArnFest that were actually viewer gifts, where I got to meet some of the guys, and they had some things they wanted to give to me, which is always nice. Don't ever expect that, but still nice for people to do that. And up first comes a couple items that Ron Brown gave me. I actually met Ron at ArnFest a couple of years ago, but this is really, really neat, these indicators, in my opinion. Now, you might look and say, well, it's just a Federal indicator, but what's cool about them is both of these have some branding on them from the company that they were made for. This one here was made for the Bone, it says made exclusively for Bone Aluminum and Brass Company. They were a foundry that did aluminum and brass work back during World War II and after. I know they did a lot of work for the automotive industry after the war. Really big outfit, kind of cool to have something from them. And this one over here is probably even cooler. It says Packard Motor Car Company on it. Of course, Packard made automobiles. They're long out of business, but this indicator was more than likely used in their factory at some point in time, and it survived, and Ron ended up with it, and he's passed it along to me. He actually had sent these to Mark Rutowski and had them redone. So they're in great condition, as you can see. And my plan is I'm going to probably put these in a display case, because I think these are neat, these ones that have the different company names on them. I've got probably another 4 or 5 or 6 of these that have that kind of stuff on them. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to use them. I think I'm just going to put them up and put them on display, because they are just a cool piece of history. Ron also gave me this little emergency stop button. We'll put this over my electrical stuff. I'm sure we'll find a need for that. That's a nice one. You can put on something, you just kind of bump into it with your knee or something and shut a machine off in an emergency situation. He also gave me just some miscellaneous, he gave me a can full of nuts and bolts and that were brand new stuff. He gave me some scrap metal that I've already put up in my scrap pile, but I'm not going to show you that. But anyway, this is 2 nice items that I got from Ron. And Ron, thank you very much. Up next, again, from the ArnFest event, viewer Tom Kleinschmidt came up to me and brought me some little clamping system stuff, some T-slot stuff. He said the stuff wouldn't fit any machines he had. He picked it up somewhere and wanted to pass it along. And this is all definitely stuff that I can use. I'll get these cleaned up. Looks like they were using them to doing a job in aluminum. They got a bunch of aluminum all over them. But I get them cleaned up. I got a drawer over there where I keep miscellaneous stuff like this in, and man, it comes in handy all the time for that weird stuff you run into. So you can't have too much of this kind of stuff laying around the shop. So Tom, thank you very much. Another viewer gift. This comes from Fred Widman, and he met me out there and handed me this little cigar box that was full of inserts. So mostly little triangular type inserts, and I have a cutter that holds those, so these will get used, I'm sure. So anyway, Fred, thank you very much. I always can use carbide, so that's very nice for you to think I'm in and bring those to me. Another very nice viewer gift that I picked up at ArnFest from Larry Pajowski, and he had actually contacted me ahead of time, asked me if I wanted this, and told me he was coming and could bring it. And this is a 5 horsepower Leeson electrical motor. He told me that I remember that it was a brand new motor. It was bought back in the 1970s. I think he said where he worked at. They never used it. He ended up bringing it home or something like that somewhere along the way. And it's been sitting in his garage for years. He's been tripping over it. Has no use for a 3-phase motor. and I thought I could use it. So absolutely, again, like we talked about before with the electrical components, I'm always getting machines in. Sometimes we have to replace motors or put a motor on something that doesn't have a motor. So it's always nice to have some stuff like this laying around to use, and I am quite confident that this will end up being used on a project somewhere along the way, and greatly appreciate bringing that in. He had it in the trunk of his car, and and we got it transferred over. The screws on the shroud were kind of messed up, and he told me when I got them, I ended up having to do a little bit of work to fix those, but no big deal at all. This motor, other than having some wear on the outside where it's been being tripped over for years, this thing is in brand spanking new condition. So very nice addition to the shop. Thank you very much for bringing that along, Larry. So up next here are a bunch of grinding wheels that fit my new to me Thompson grinder back there. This is a 12-inch diameter wheel, 3-inch inside circle, and when I got that grinder, my old Landis grinder had the same inside diameter, 3 inches, but it took I think it was a 10-inch wheel, and my new one is designed to either run a 7-inch wheel or a 12-inch wheel. You can run the motor at 2 different RPMs that are designed for those diameters. I've been using my 10-inch wheels on them, but because it's really designed for a 12-inch wheel, I really wasn't getting the surface speed on the wheel itself that you really need. So I've been on the lookout for some wheels, and my buddy Jeff Clow up in the Atlanta area, he had a bunch of grinding wheels that he had got at an auction, and he went through them and found a bunch that would fit my machine. And we did a little horse trading. Actually, he was down at my shop some time back, and he had picked out a few things that he wanted for his shop from my I had some stuff with just some duplicate tooling, and I said, just take them, Jeff. I said, we'll swap later on. I know, because we're always horse trading with one another. So he brought me up some wheels. So the one on top here is a really nice Norton wheel that's designed for doing like tool steel and stuff like that. Brand spanking new, hasn't been used. And then the rest of these wheels, these are all slightly different thicknesses and configurations, but all basically the same type wheel. And this wheel is it's a softer material. I did a little bit of research on it. It's also designed for grinding really hard stuff, but this wheel breaks down fairly rapidly. I know that these came out of the Lockheed plant in Atlanta. I'm not sure what they were actually using these for, but there's a whole bunch of these different. Some of these are different thicknesses and different configurations, but they're all basically the same grade wheel. So anyway, nice to have a couple of wheels that are the right wheels for my machine, and I need to probably pick up a few more grades for doing specific materials, but this will be a great help. So Jeff, thank you very much for bringing those along. So next one here, this is actually a purchase, and this, I guess you could, well, it wasn't really an ArnFest purchase. This is something I actually made a deal on before I went up. I picked it up while I was at ArnFest from my friend Ron Grundy. You guys met him in a video interview we did a week or so ago. Ron was a long-term employee at Kearney and Trecker, and this vise that I bought from him, I picked it up while I went up there visiting with him, but this is actually a Kearney and Trecker vise. It says Kearney and Trecker on there. It was made by K&T for use on their machines. But even better than that, this one was actually used in the Kearney Trecker factory. It has stamped on here Department 53. He couldn't remember what exactly Department 53 was, but it was one of the departments at K&T where they were basically building machines, so on and so on. So in my mind, this is a piece of history. I'm a K&T fan. I really like their machines, but to have an original K&T vise that was actually used at K&T to build machines, it's really kind of cool. There's a chance that this vise may have held something that is in one of my machines when it was being built, and I think that's just really cool. So anyway, I really appreciate Mr. Grundy offering this up to me and giving me an opportunity to purchase it, and a very nice addition to the shop. So thought I'd share that. And talking about vices, I got to show you this, and this is another one that I picked up at ArnFest. Made a deal on it before I went up there. Peter Koth, who is a longtime viewer of mine, he's actually been to one of the scraping classes that we had here at my shop. I've actually been up to his place in Arkansas as well. When Lance Balsley and I went up and picked up some machinery a couple of years ago. But Peter had found this somewhere up there close to him and asked me if I had any interest in it, and absolutely. This is a 10-inch jaw vise. It's actually badged Wilton over on the side, but I am almost 100% certain that this vise was made by Kurt. It is identical to a Kurt vise in every single possible way. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that Kurt made these and Wilton just branded them as Wiltons. I've got an 8-inch version of this same vise. It's also badged Wilton. So it's actually on my milling machine right now. And of course, a typical Kurt vise is 6 inches. So this just gives me some added capacity. This thing is huge. I mean, this thing is gigantic. This vise weighs 300 pounds. But I thought I could use it potentially over on my horizontal milling machine or even over on my new metal planer for some particular jobs. So anyway, really, really nice to have a really big piece of work holding here in the shop. And just excited to have it. And Peter, thank you for thinking of me when you saw it. And he actually hauled it all the way up to ArnFest. And when he was up there, him and his wife went up and gave it to me while I was there. And it was so big and heavy, we had to get a forklift to unload it out of his truck. So now let's change gears and look at some of the swap meet purchases. And this first one here I got from Doug Broberg, who's again a good friend of mine. I've been knowing for a long time at ArnFest. He always brings some good stuff down for the swap meet. And lo and behold, over in his truck, he had a bunch of jaws for Kurt vises, and several of these actually fit that 10-inch Kurt vise I just picked. I think this set actually fits my 8-inch. I have an 8-inch one as well, but for what he wanted for them, I said I'm just going to buy them and bring them home. Don't know that I needed them, but yeah, you can't ever have too many vise jaws. So I think these are originals. These are obviously homemade ones that were probably made for doing a specific job. Of course, these are wider than the normal ones. There's some aluminum soft jaws down here. I think those fit the 8-inch vise as well, but still, very nice addition to the shop. Very nice to have these. And Doug, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to buy them and give me a good deal on them. I'll put them up and have them if we ever need them. Another swap meet find here. This is something I had absolutely no use in buying or no need in buying, but just thought it was neat, had to get it. I've seen these before. It's a little anvil vise. So you got an anvil on one side and a vise on the end of it here. Guy had it for sale out on his truck, and I thought it was a decent price. So I bought it. It's cute. Like I said, I have no need for this thing. I think at some point in time, what I'll probably do is take it apart, maybe do a restoration on it, and I don't know if I'll keep it or sell it or whatever. But anyway, just a neat little vise, and I just thought it was cute and had to have it. Next items, these actually came off of another YouTuber's table out there that came over. Mr. Pete, Lyle Peterson, usually comes out for the swap meet at ArnFest, and he was there again this year. Always enjoys seeing Mr. Pete and getting a chance to chat with him. But he had a couple items that really what I purchased from him was this box of shims. So this is a set of C-size shims, and they're sorted in here by thickness. They come basically from a thousandths of an inch up to 125 thousandths of an inch, and these are really handy working on machines. They're just shims in different thicknesses that you can put in. This is made for up to 1 1/4 inch size bolt. I've got sets of these. I've got the AA, the A, the B, and then the C set. Now, I actually had a few in the C size, and actually the shims that are in here is a combination of the ones that were already in it. It actually had, I think, all the sizes, but I put more of them in here because I had some that I had just over in a drawers, but I didn't have a big case like this. So anyway, really neat to have. In fact, I thought it was kind of funny when I went up to Mr. Pete. He says, I kind of thought you might want that. I brought that for you. So I just happened to be the first one to grab it. He also gave me this little steam valve here to take out to the museum. So this little coil down here on the bottom, this is for using in steam. Basically what happened is the steam will condense and you'll have water down here in the bottom, so you actually have a slug of water that goes up and hits into the valve rather than having live steam up in there. So that's the reason for this little curly Q. That's real common on steam engines and steam boilers when you have a gauge to have one of those in there. So again, you don't have the hot steam actually hitting the gauge. You got a slug of water that's hitting it. So anyway, I'll take that out to the museum, and I'm sure it'll get used at some point in time. We always are needing that kind of stuff. So these items I picked up again from longtime ArnFest friend Mark Leadbeyer. Mark is one of the few guys like myself. There's only a handful of us left that have been to every single one of the ArnFest events. So I've been seeing him. This was our 16th time of getting together at ArnFest, and always good to see Mark. He had over on his table a couple items I picked up. Number one, he just had some spanner wrenches. These spanner wrenches, whenever I see them at swap meets and stuff, if they're reasonably priced, I just buy them because I'm always needing them. There's a million different sizes. I don't even know what sizes I usually have, but he had several of them, so I picked them up. And actually, these two are basically the same, but the other ones I didn't have. So these are actually some I didn't have, so I'm gonna put them in my drawer of spanner wrenches. And he also had some of these little bronze hammers that were in really good shape, all things considered. So they can't have too many of these things laying around. So I picked up a couple of those as well. So next thing, I found this little carbide grinder. This is actually a bow door. Looks like it's been repainted, obviously. I'm not sure that channel iron stand that it's on is original, but the guy that I got this from told me it worked. And this is something I actually don't have in the shop. And it had two really good green wheels, a coarse and more of a medium grit or fine grit there. Yeah, this will be something that we'll definitely be able to use around here. So had a really good price on it. I couldn't turn it down, and I brought it home with me. I'll need to probably redo the electrical cord on there. I'm not crazy about the way that's done, and put a switch on it and so forth, but that'll be a real nice addition to the shop. And another little item picked up, a gallon jug full of, basically this is a spindle oil. Really good high grade quality oil. I think the guy told me he had bought like a 55-gallon drum of this stuff, and he poured it up in these 1-gallon jugs, and he was selling these for like $10 a jug, which is a bargain all day long. So anyway, I brought some of that home with me as well. And with that, I think we've worked through all these items. My table that was full over there is getting empty. I need to put everything up and clean off some space. So always good. Really enjoyed ArnFest this year. For everybody I saw up there, great to see people again. It's just always a fun event. I've been going to that event for so long. I've developed so many friendships over the years with people all over the country, even the world, that have attended ArnFest, and it's always get to see new folks up there every year, and really, really enjoy that event every year. So always look forward. Hopefully we'll have some more opportunities for some events like that where people can come out and meet up with myself and some other YouTubers as well. I think we're going to try to do something down at the Florida Flywheelers in February, so be listening out for some more information on that as well. And with that, guys, that is going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Comments are appreciated. Thumbs up. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like what you see. That really helps me out with the algorithms over on YouTube, and hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted, because otherwise YouTube may not let you know. It's just the way they are. So with that, guys, that's it. Thanks again for watching. We'll talk to everybody later.